Well, hey, Dave Melinda here, Positive Polarity Podcast. Hope things are going awesome for you this week. I have a question like I typically do, and it sounds super, super easy on the front end. And then I'm like, crap, I have no clue what this means. So I had to bring in the experts. So I'm going to start with the question. And the question is your business running you, or are you running your business? And so again, I started thinking about that. I'm like, well, I don't know. So I'm like, rather than try and figure it out myself, I'm going to ask an expert. So I'm honored to be hanging out with Erin Marcus. How are you today?
I am awesome. So excited to be here. So thanks for having me.
Absolutely. Founder and CEO of Conquer Your Business. So before you answer our question, tell us, what is Conquer Your Business? What's going on over there?
What is going on over here? Oh my God, lots of exciting things. Conquer your business and this whole idea of conquer, it's business coaching and consulting, right?
Sure.
At its core, let's use the most boring label possible, business coaching and consulting. But my whole approach, which really came about throughout my life, and it's my approach for your finances, your health, your family, your relationships, is to be in charge of what it is that you want and not in reaction mode,
Okay.
where other people end up making decisions for you just because you haven't taken the initiative to make those decisions for yourself. And that's like, it's a theme in my life. So when I looked at putting together Conquer Your Business, I want, and because branding is one of my things,
Sure.
how do I want people to feel? I want people to feel beyond empowered and into in power.
Okay.
I think some people don't do it because they're scared, and some people don't do it, let's face it, because they're lazy. But most people don't realize that they're not in charge of their world because they don't know they're allowed to be. I think
Wow. And I think, well, so being in charge sounds like pretty simple, but I'm guessing there's a lot of intentionality. There's a lot to that because I think a lot of times we lift our hands up and go, well, I don't know. I'm not, wasn't my idea. I'm not in charge. I'm not the boss. I mean, there's a lot of different ways that you could interpret that piece. So,
and it's not about, by the way, it's not about being a control freak or being about in charge of anyone else. That's not right. It's not like permission to be a big jerk and I get whatever I want. That is
sure.
not what I'm talking about. It's my version. It's my blunt, direct version of personal responsibility.
Sure. So you're saying being in charge of yourself rather than being in charge of a group, so to speak.
Absolutely.
Gotcha.
Absolutely.
Cool. Well, and so I think, again, you said coaching and consulting, and it's kind of funny where there's so many different words out there that what the heck do they mean? I just think of it in a simple way of, you come alongside a business owner that's really good at what they do, but they may struggle with something on their team or some finances. There's something they struggle with. I mean, it doesn't make sense for you to be your own attorney. It doesn't make sense for you to be your own CPA, but yet you can be your own business coach. It's kind of funny how,
Right.
they don't align necessarily. But you know what? It is what it is. And that's why we're here every week to kind of help people that are maybe haven't been exposed to that type of thought process in the past.
Right. And doing what your business does for a living and growing a business are two separate things. They
Right,
have nothing to do with each other.
right. Yep. Yeah, and I just think of Tiger Woods, right? One of the best golfers ever. He's got coaches surrounding him, right? Nutrition coach, strength coach, mental coach, swing coach. It's like, man, that dude's swing is perfect. Why would he need a coach to help him with his swing? Well, you know what? You get in your own head, and all of a sudden you think you're doing it the right way, and somebody on the outside looks and goes, "Yeah, you probably could help with that piece." So
You're
I'm
too
assuming
close
that's
to
where
it.
Conquer Your Business comes in at that point.
Exactly. We're all too close to our own. Even if, I mean, I am a business consultant and I have coaches and consultants that I depend on. I won't even say
Sure.
use. I
Yeah.
depend on because they have a different view. They don't have the emotional attachment. They don't have the stories that I'm telling myself, and they have a different perspective.
Yeah. Well, you messed with it now when you said emotional attachment. Oh
Did I
my
cater up
gosh.
there?
What
Did
do
I
you mean I
cater up
shouldn't have
there?
my brother-in-law running the sales department? He's never done a sale in his life, but he's my brother-in-law. Come on, give me a
Yes,
break here, Erin,
exactly,
right?
exactly.
Yeah, and again, I think that's it. It is hard at times to open up your business to other people, but that's really if you want to get to that point where you're in charge of yourself, and in charge of your business, whatever you want to be in charge of. I think that's one of the great ways is to have somebody on the outside help you along the way. So
Absolutely, absolutely.
I want to ask you then that question. So you said, is your business running you or are you running your business? I saw that theme in preparation for today in your website and on LinkedIn and things like that. So when you ask that question to somebody, what's the common answer that you get when you ask that?
They know they're overwhelmed. A lot of people know the symptoms, but not the cause, right? It's no different than medical, right? We know the symptoms, we know how we feel, but we don't necessarily know what's causing it. And I find that the same with business owners. So they know they're very busy. They know they're working hard. And and I just want to put that out there front and center. This is not about people not trying hard enough. This is not about people making big mistakes. Like, this is not about wrong, shame, bad, or any of that.
Sure.
It's about the natural tendencies that we have. It's literally neuroscience. If you look at how your brain works, if you look at how we think, if you look at how the world works, the truth of the matter is, the way that I describe it is, we're all in reaction mode. By default, we are in reaction mode.
Okay.
And when I say, are you running your business or is your business running you? That's what I'm really alluding to. Because if I would say to somebody, are you stuck in reaction mode? Most people don't think reaction mode is a bad thing necessarily. Right? But yeah, things happen and I react to them. So it doesn't sound bad at the surface. But if you are stuck in reaction mode instead of proactive, being in charge, deciding ahead of time of what it is that you want to do and how you want to create it, or how to create it, and then go about creating it, then you're not actually in charge. You're in reaction mode, which means your business is running you. And most people start at step one and go about doing things. And my whole approach is, and this makes my clients crazy, because 90% of the time when they ask me a question, one of my first responses is, well, what do you want? And most people haven't decided what they want.
Sure. Yep.
Or at least not specifically enough to then create a plan to get what you want. And thus your business is running you, because by default, even not necessarily intentionally, you're in reaction mode. And it doesn't mean you'll make no strides, and it doesn't mean you'll have no results.
Sure.
But odds are you're not going to actually get to where you want to get if you don't get out of that pattern.
So can we put some meat to that in the sense of understanding what it means in business? So if I'm listening right now and, I'm focused on making payroll, I'm focused on making sure my team sells enough and, we're in safety compliance, there's all these things that are on my checklist to do, every single week, Erin. So how do I get it from there to, being more proactive, and maybe there's some that I'm proactive on and some will always be reactionary. I mean, if I would come to you in that spot, which I'm sure a lot of listeners right now are like, I'm in that spot right now, Erin, what the heck do I do? Is there like a first step to this?
Well, the part that people miss a lot is not building in enough strategy and thinking time to their processes. It's do it faster, do it harder. I'm not getting what I want. I'm not getting the results that I want. I have these problems on my plate. I have these tasks that have to get done. So I'm going to work harder, or smarter, or hire more people to work harder, and smarter. But at what point are you thinking and strategizing? And
Okay.
I one of the things that I've heard over and over and over through my career from several different mentors is CEO is a thinking job, not a doing job. And are you building enough thinking time and strategizing time and debriefing time into all of your processes and efforts and day? And one of the reasons that we don't do this enough is, too many of us, especially those of us here in the Midwest, it doesn't feel like hard work because
Yeah.
it's quieter. It's reflective, it's quieter, it's not go, 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 it's not hit it harder. And so we don't build the time into our schedule to say, okay, on an annual, or we'll do it on an annual basis. But are you doing it on a quarterly basis, on a monthly basis, on a weekly basis, on a daily basis? I do what, like my morning routine, I call it setting my stage.
Okay.
Am I setting my stage by reviewing exactly what it is that I know I want to accomplish, so that I remind myself before I go into a day where we make 1.5 million decisions, what's the outcome I'm trying to create, so that I have a better chance of making the right decisions.
Well, and I think you had everybody excited when you said yearly, but then when you broke it down to daily, you know what? I hear the brakes going on, Erin, because I'm like, I don't have that kind of time. And that's what I hear consistently. And so people are like, so do you want me to work more? Do you want me to work longer? Right. And so,
That's
you know,
not
how
the
do you
answer,
how do you
right?
like combat that thinking time? Because I agree 100%. I have a list of things, Erin, that I have to get done today, and thinking is not one of them. You know?
Thinking is not one of them. Exactly. So a couple of things here.
Yeah.
It's never about working more hours. It's net for our listeners, for our
Yeah.
audience, for the type of people that we attract. These are
Yep.
not people who are lazy. These are not people who aren't trying.
Right.
So if you're one of those people who are doing the things and taking the action, the answer is never about working more hours.
Yep.
If you were really truly honest, and this is the most brutal conversation you can ever have, is an honest conversation with yourself.
Right. Yep.
If you are honest about what you are spending your time doing, are you focusing or are you distracted? It's not about more hours. It's about a better use of those hours. It's about breaking through the fear or the scarcity mindset to hire a team member and then get out of their way.
Sure.
I just did my own show this morning, coincidentally, about how do you leverage. The only way to grow your business is to move from doing into leveraging. Leveraging your money, leveraging your marketing, leveraging your team, leveraging your time.
Sure.
That's the only way you can get to the results that a more ambitious business owner wants. And leveraging your time means putting the right pieces together so that you can have thinking time. And by the way, I don't spend every day the amount of time figuring this all out that I do in my big annual review.
Sure.
Right? It's 20 minutes.
Yeah.
It's your TikTok time, right? It's 20 minutes. It's Facebook scrolling. It's
Sure.
reading the news, which is just poisoning you anyway, right?
Right.
Like
Yep.
it's not about more time. It's about more, I'll put it this way. Instead of saying better use of our time, because that sounds all judgy,
Yep.
it's more intentional use of my time.
Gotcha.
I get more intentional. And one of the things that I see happening in this same theme, and I see it with myself. I mean, how come the default is always to what we don't want to have happen? If I don't watch what I eat garbage. If I don't intentionally go to the gym, I sit on the couch. If I'm not proactive and intentional about how I spend my time, I end up wasting more time doing things I don't even care about.
Right.
And it's just patterns, and it's just neuroscience, and it's just doing things more on purpose, which you can only do if you've spent the time to know what it is that you want.
Yep. Well, and I remember growing up and thinking, I remember my first all-nighter that I pulled, and I owned the company and I stayed there all night to get some stupid project done or whatever it was. And, people came the next morning and I'm still wearing the same clothes from the day before. I tell you what, Erin, I thought of it as a badge of honor. And I thought I was so darn
I hear you.
special, right? Because I pulled an all-nighter. And then I realized it's kind of like, the business never even had the courage to say thank you. There wasn't anything at the end of that badge of honor kind of sucked because people looked at you funny, you know. And it was just like, man, I was expecting this parade and I was expecting this gold at the end of the rainbow, and all I got was like,
Exhaustion and
defeat,
heartburn, right?
exhaustion, right? And so, but I think, like you said, though, I don't know if it's a Midwest thing because we spent some time on the coast in California, and I don't want to, say it's one way or another. I just feel like I was born and raised here and Wisconsin, and you just, you work, and then you come home from work, and then you work in the yard. And then you come home you're done with that. It's dark. Now you go back to work. I mean, it's just like you're
It's
always
this work ethic and right,
Yeah.
and finding the balance. Find everything to me is finding the balance. So the work ethic is amazing, but the problem with being proud of doing hard work is you make everything hard in order to feel proud,
right. Well,
instead of saying, what if it were easy? And that's so funny that you said like a badge of honor, because I say that all the time. In one of my keynotes that I do, the opening line was always, I used to wear my ability to handle chaos like a badge of honor.
yep.
But why would I do that to myself?
Yeah.
And that's where I go back to this idea of intention and running your business and being proactive and my version of personal responsibility, because the hard work, and this is what I had to learn, the hard work was not the 18-hour days. The hard work is knocking it the hell off, right?
Yeah.
The hard work is getting over those beliefs.
Yeah. Well, do the research and see how ineffective you are on hours 9 through 18, right? I mean, it's ridiculous. I mean,
it's brutal.
It's crazy, but we have this thought in our mind. So,
and I think I'm lucky. I say this funny in a little tongue in cheek. I require a lot of sleep. This is not a new thing for me. I require 8 hours. I can function on 7. I prefer 9 with an occasional 10, maybe once a month. Sure. So I was never the person who could pull an all-nighter because I felt like I was gonna die. Like,
sure.
And I think that has served me a little.
Sure, for sure.
Bit.
Yep.
But I would make up for it by being an absolute lunatic during the work hours.
Well, and I there's no right or wrong here. There's no judgment here. We're just trying to give you some tactics to not have to feel that. And I have that still to this day where, I mean, I'm glad my office is not on the same level as our living space, because whenever it was, and I would walk past that computer, well, I tell you what, that one email was, I'd look down in the bottom and I'd see that little envelope and I'm like, crap, I better check it, I better check.
Now that we have our phone.
Now it's on our phone, right? It's like, oh my God. You can't
get away from it. You can't get away from it. And this was very interesting, especially post-pandemic, and I was already working from home. But where was I that I heard somebody say this? If you're working from home, you're not working from home, you're living in your office.
Yeah.
And right. And how do you, in this house, we recently purchased a house. My office is up in a loft and it's the only thing up here.
Yep.
And it actually helped me immensely because there's no reason to be in it unless forgot my phone charger somewhere or I'm going to sit down and do work.
Yep. So the business running you, or are you running the business? I'm hoping if you're listening that you're starting to get a little bit of clarity here, because, it's something that can totally help. But part of the help is also the team. So if you're fortunate enough to be listening and have a team as opposed to a solopreneur type person, how do you, Erin, suggest that we create that high performing team? If we have people, maybe we have to increase their abilities, maybe we have to retrain, replace. I'm not sure how you land on that, but if there's an entrepreneur listening that has a team, how do they create a high performing team? What experience have you seen?
So I have been hiring for decades, which is horrifying now that I say that out loud and realize how old I've gotten, but here we are. Hire for values. This is not new information. This is not my original thought. Hire
Sure.
for values, and then you train to do a thing. I remember back in corporate, my last corporate job, the first hire I made, the powers that be kept sending me people that they thought I should hire, and I kept saying no. And I hired what was effectively a kid right out of college because I didn't want somebody else's old ideas. I wanted somebody to ask me every time I did something why we were doing that, so
Sure.
that I had to explain myself to make sure it was still a good idea. And so I hire people who, now there's certain roles where, yes, they have to have their skills. I'm not saying hire for people who have zero skills, but I hire people who question me, and then I create an environment where they're very, very, very comfortable telling me I'm doing everything wrong.
Sure.
Nobody gets hit over the head for making mistakes, because none of us are brain surgeons. There are no deaths created by us making mistakes.
Right.
And so the environment that you create is number one step to creating a high performing team. Do you allow them the space they need to do what they can do and the support that they need to be able to do it, and then get out of their way?
Yeah.
But you need those
said that twice. You said that twice. I want to go back to that, getting out of their way. Address that if you could, because there may be people that haven't heard that before. So what do you mean by that?
I have an amazing, amazing, amazing team that smile and nod at me and then have meetings without me, right? Because I'm the problem.
Yeah.
I'm the visionary. I'm the strategist. I'm the one setting the goals.
Right.
But I am completely in the way of creating the process.
Okay.
Because I don't like it. I'm great at creating a process because I'm very goal driven, but
Sure.
I won't follow a process to save my life.
Sure.
So they manage me. They know that I'm the visionary. They know that I'm the action taker. They know that I'm the one who is going to produce the results. And then they create the processes that are needed to make those things go. And my job is to do what they tell me to do. My job is not to create a process that they have to follow.
Sure.
I get a little judgy and ranty about it. It's dumb for me to create a process that a professional organizer then has to follow. Who are we kidding?
Right. Yep.
She's much better at it than I am.
Sure.
She's much higher for it comes down to this: hire for complementary skills. Don't go hiring little mimics of you.
Right.
It just creates more problems.
Wow. And I've heard so many times people tell me, man, if I could just hire 10 people that were just
it would
like
be
me.
a disaster. Could you
Right?
imagine the chaos?
So imagine there's 10 Erins on the team.
No.
We would have a wall of Post-it notes of all these ideas that she wanted to get done, and none of them would get done because you're not the implementer, right? Exactly.
Right. And here's the thing, and I say that as someone who's a very high implementer.
Yeah.
And I still know I'm not good enough at it.
Sure.
I'm a great implementer, and I'm still not good enough.
Yeah.
Compared to what a business needs.
Sure. Yeah. Well, and that's where we use DISC a lot, because if somebody's building a team and they don't know who is on their team currently or who they want to put on their team, like you just said, you're a visionary. Well, if I'm hiring a visionary, let's just say let's use implementer. I'm hiring an implementer because I'm a visionary. So most CEO or most entrepreneur business owners have some vision to them. and they're looking for somebody to implement that vision. Well, the first person coming along in that interview is desperate for a job. And so the question is, are you an implementer? What are they going to say? Oh my
No,
gosh,
I
I
don't
suck
know.
at it, right? I mean, don't hire me for that
Don't
when
hire.
that's the job title, right? So
Right.
everybody tries to acclimate and be something they're really not. And I've hired plenty of people in my day. And so then I kind of fast forward the tape and I go, the guy shows up one day and I'm like, do you have a twin brother? Because the way that you interviewed and the way that you showed turned out is two totally different people, So we
Well,
love.
and here's the thing, because I love, from our previous conversations, I love me a good personality profiler.
Yeah.
Like, you can't do any of this well until you know yourself.
Yep.
You can't, like, I know for me, the brain's always going, the ideas are always going. So for me, the job is done when I figure out the solution. And to my team, that's just the beginning. And I think that's a really good way to describe it. My job is done when I have solved and answered the problem. Their job is just beginning because they're now going to implement it.
Well, like you said, know yourself, which kind of aligns with being in charge of yourself. I mean, these two kind of align. And I think that we're so afraid to see who we really are because then we're going to, I don't know. I think back to when I was a kid and man, if my parents knew who I really was or who I hung out with or what I did, that then they would something would change. So then we try and cover that up, and try to
We were all
pretend
following this path that we were told we were supposed to be.
Exactly.
And
Yep.
I learned this, becoming authentic, it's not about becoming, it's more about uncovering who you were before the world started telling you who you were supposed to be.
Right. Yep. And if you have a whole team of people that don't know who they are, I mean, that's like chaos, right? I mean, I think of professional sports, if the quarterback doesn't know if he's supposed to hand the ball off or run it or pass it, I mean, they're never going to win a game.
And I've learned along the way to there's a mix here. Maybe again, it's this Midwestern values, but don't try to do the things you're not good at. Don't try to claim the things you're not good at. Own the crap out of your space. Yep. And I think that's where people get stuck. They think they have to be good at everything, but at the same, going back to the whole do-it-yourself version that too many solopreneurs, hence the name, get stuck in.
Yep.
But they also don't really take ownership of what they're amazing at and say, I'm phenomenal at this, alongside of, I have no business doing that.
Absolutely. Wow, that's funny. Well, and so people are listening and they may, if they've never heard you before, they're like, where did you get all this from? So share with people, if you don't mind. You had a year of failure. And
my year of failure.
Yeah, I share with people so that they can actually realize that you kind of have had to know what you're doing here.
Well, and it's very interesting because to do a real fast forward version of it, grew up total juvenile delinquent. City of Chicago public schools in the 70s and 80s. I had much more important things to do as far as I was concerned than actually go to school. But then I went to college, right? Not interested, didn't get it. But I could test. I could test well. I could read the book and test well. So A's on the tests, D's on the report card. The problem in the middle was attendance, right? Yep. But I tested in a college because back in the 80s, you could still do that as opposed to how that all works now. Sure. And then it got more interesting. And so I did well in college, and I always did well at my different jobs because I don't sit still very well. And it became apparent that if I wanted to have any kind of life whatsoever, I was going to have to earn a living. So I got very good at earning a living. I would do great at my job, get the promotion, get the next job. Great at my job, get the promotion, get the next job. And then when I was 37, in the middle of an amazing career in my last corporate world, I got my MBA in marketing and executive leadership. And then I decided in my early 40s, there was something more out there than corporate. And I went out on my own. And that first leap was actually a franchise. So I didn't jump completely off the cliff. I had a franchise model. And I had gotten that office to the top 10 out of 200 in 18 months.
Nice.
Because I had the business building background, right? That's what I did in corporate through a mentor. That's what the MBA was for. I knew how to grow. And so here I was talking about what my franchise did, which was working with families with aging parents. And all anybody wanted to hear from me is, yeah, but why are you doing so well? And so the franchisor hired me to train new franchises, to speak at their conferences. And I had had this great corporate career. And I'm thinking, okay, I'm going to do something that's completely my own. And that was 2018. And I made $11,000.
A week, right?
Right. I went from 6-figure expense account, fancy corporate job, top 10 out of 200, $500,000, 9 team members, huge accolades, franchise. And in 2018, I made $11,000. So that was fun.
Yep.
But what I learned in that year, I learned so much in that year about what I talk about now. I wasn't reverse engineering what I wanted because I had no idea what I wanted. I was out there doing random acts of marketing, random acts of business. I didn't know what I was trying to create. I have the branding and marketing and business building education. What I didn't have, which was nobody was more shocked than I was at the time that learned that this was the difference maker, was the success mindset piece. I didn't have the experience, the education, the information around that it was how I was thinking that was affecting my behavior. And that's why it wasn't working. And so the fact that I've always been interested in how things work helped me because I by the end of that year, I remember saying to my boyfriend going, when did it become okay to live this way? Like, this is not okay. So I was I tore it all apart. Why was this happening? What needed to change? And starting in 2019, really put the pieces together of what was wrong with my business model, what was wrong with what I was trying to create, what was wrong with how I was going about it. Because kind of to the beginning of our conversation, it didn't matter that I knew how to grow a business. I was too close to my own story to grow my business.
Yeah. Wow.
Right. So in 2019 is when that really got sorted out. And I've never left having those mentors and tools. Like it became apparent not only was that a missing piece, but that was a piece that's not okay to go without.
Well, and I appreciate you sharing that because people ask me, and I'm sure they ask you, what should I be looking for in a coach or a consultant and things like that. And, all I can say is that if they have never done it, what you're asking them to do before, it's, but they've read about it. And I always think about it. If I need brain surgery and I have the choice of 2 doctors, one that's read every piece of book, every article that's ever been out there on the subject, but has never done it, as opposed to somebody that's done it before 1,000 times, which one are you taking, right? I mean,
and I had a really hard time with that. And it's one of the reasons that 2018 was Erin's year of failure is I was really resisting the word coach. I was really resisting throwing my hat in the ring with people I didn't truthfully have a lot of respect for, because what you see in this space so many times is, and it's not even malicious. I'm very, very big on don't make people wrong or bad when they're not trying to be wrong or bad. They had a great experience with a coach, or they read a lot. And so they it made it look easy. So they want to go replicate it. And what they know is a list of what to do. Because there's a million books. telling you what to do. It's not hard to say, well, oh, I read the book, this is what you do, and then go tell other people this is what to do.
Right.
But they didn't have the background and education and experience to be able to show somebody how to do it.
Right.
And that's my big, like, and that's one of the things I resisted. My own story, interestingly enough, about who coaches were and that too many of them weren't good enough to be doing what they're doing, kept me from stepping into what I'm good at. And my whole approach, because of that experience, is, you know, my own bad investments. I'm very much against those insta-tactics, one size fits all, just send this one email. And it really, strategy over tactics, your goals, your strengths, right? We buy into an Instagram story of just do this one thing, but you're not really the right person to do that one thing because you're a different human. And now instead of getting $1 million, you feel like a failure. So ask me how I really feel about that.
Yeah, no kidding, right? Well, don't you get those all the time from LinkedIn now? Like you can work like 3 minutes a day and and make $1 million bucks, or you can, you know, it's like, wow, that, I mean, I obviously missed that boat in high school and in college.
Isn't that what they told us? If it's too good to be true, it probably is.
Right, exactly.
I will never say there's not work involved. You don't have to work 80 hours a week.
Yeah.
But I will never say that there's not work involved.
Absolutely. So, hey, as we start to land today, I got a couple of things. First of all, what would your tip of the week be? You know, Erin, for somebody listening, it could be something we talked about. It could be just what's on your heart right now. But what's something that you want to share with the world?
My tip of the week is the best question you can ask yourself, whether it's your relationships, your finances, your health, or your business, is what do I want? Every single time you find yourself trying to decide what to do, the first question you have to ask yourself is, what do I want? And the second question is, okay, if that's what I want, what do I need to do? How do I need to show up in order to achieve it? Every single time. Your health, your money, your relationships, your business. What do I want? And who
I
do
really like how it's you're thinking it's you. It's not like
it's always me.
Yeah, right.
No problem. Taylor Swift has done us all a favor with her song. It's me. I'm the problem. It's me. Period. Hard stop every single time.
You're also the solution, though. So that's the good part of that too.
And that's the whole conquer thing, right? That's the beauty of personal responsibility is you have the absolute power to do everything about it.
Yep.
It's not a blame game. It's an empowerment thing.
Well, and that's where, man, my parents said there's 3 types of people, right? There's people that watch things happen. There's people that make things happen. And then there's people that don't know what's happening. And, you know, it's like, I always think about that. And I'm like, you know, why are you watching? If you're going to watch it and your personality is to totally take a, you know, like a victim approach, if that's going to be your, you know what, at least own up to it, but sure don't blame the victim or the victor. Don't blame them because they're making things happen, right? And
at first it sounds like, oh my God, it's all my fault. No. This is amazing. You have so much control and power and ability.
Yep.
It's amazing.
Absolutely. You were created that way. And that's the cool part, is that you are supposed to take some responsibility. And I don't know, there was just a weirdest thing we had in our on the referendum for our last vote. That was just like a month ago. They asked the question, if you're not working, should you and if you're not looking for a job, should you get a lesser amount of money? So the people that are out looking for work get more, people that aren't looking get less. And I'm like, who in the world would vote against that? I mean, you know, it's like, and again, it's not a politics thing. It's just like, you know,
but it does show you why it's so hard when we've normalized, you know, again, neuroscience, not blame, neuroscience. When we have normalized the opposite of personal responsibility.
Yeah.
And then we want to know why we were in the mess where we're in.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, that's funny. So you have, as we land the plane today, you have a live virtual event coming up on May 12th. It's called Brand Builder Workshop. Why don't you tell us a little about what you got planned?
Absolutely. So I think I mentioned it. I can't remember if I've mentioned it. It's this whole idea of having to leverage things. How do you grow your business? And one of the ways is creating what I call an in-demand brand. Is your brand and your business strategy, your branding strategy, your business strategy. How do you marry these things to make your efforts better, right? More effective, more efficient.
Mm-hmm.
And so this is an afternoon workshop, and we're going to be going deep into this concept of client journey, which I love, so that we can create an easy, logical, effective path to move people from prospect to clients, leveraging marketing, leveraging content so you can reach a greater audience with less work. How do you identify opportunities to increase your credentials to make that work better for you? And the whole goal here for me in this process is to make a sales conversation basically a comfortable confirmation conversation. Right? Like, how do you leverage and give enough to create the know, like, and trust factor so that the right people go on this journey with you and get to step forward and say, yes, tell me more, I'm ready. This is what I wanted. Yeah.
So
And
it's May 12th. It's 1 to
Yes.
5 Central Time because you're in Chicago. And if people listening, because we're going to air this prior to that, if people are listening and they want to jump on, where do they go to sign up?
Brandbuilder.conqueryourbusiness.com. I double checked that real quick. Brand builder, because I'm not in charge of that part of the business.
Yeah, exactly. Right. Yep.
Brandbuilder.conqueryourbusiness.com.
Perfect. And then you can get a free pass there.
Yes.
Live virtual event. So it sounds like a great spot for people if you're struggling with any of the things that she just talked about, or quite frankly, any of the things that we've just talked about for the last 45 minutes. And if somebody is struggling, and I always tell people every week, I'm like, rather than just jump into your next podcast or cross this off your list as something that you've done, take a second, do that. Those 2 words that she said, she swore at us and said, thinking time, right? Take a minute and think about, wow, what did I learn? What could I take away? What will really help? And if you're struggling with something and you want to reach out, if somebody is struggling, Erin, and they want to reach out to you, what's the best way for people to connect with you?
We've made it really easy. It's all in one place. All the resources you need are at conqueryourbusiness.com. Links to everything, including getting a hold of me. So it's just at conqueryourbusiness.com.
So cool. Wow. There was so much here. Thank you so much for all you're doing. I'm glad that you didn't pack it in after your $11,000 year.
It was close. It was close.
I bet you it was.
It was close.
So for people listening, it's not always, we a lot of times have stories of triumph and, oh my gosh, I, did this and made $1 million and all that. But there are times that it takes a little bit of momentum to get that rolling. So thanks again for sharing that story, Erin, and can't wait to keep learning more from you. And thanks again for all you're doing in your space.
Thank you so much for having me. Love chatting with you.